Batman Black Mirror is one of, if not the best Batman comic I've ever read. But why is it special? In this story, Dick Grayson is Batman, and we don't have the usual rogues gallery. But I know you may be asking, why is Dick Grayson Batman? This took place right before the New 52 reboot and during the Batman Incorporated storyline. And how does this comic deal with veteran Batman characters interacting with a new Batman? Really well, actually. Even though this Batman is completely different in almost every way, it still feels like a Batman story, with him taking on the criminal underworld of Gotham and with the help of Babs and Jim Gordon Sr. But what does make this Batman different? Unlike Bruce, he isn't insane, but he still won't kill because unlike Bruce, who is a pessimist yet is physically incapable of killing, Dick just won't kill because he chooses to see the best in people, even at the cost of his allies being hurt. But who are these villains he refuses to kill? The first villain we see, and the most forgettable, is the dealer. Basically, he's a dealer slash auctioneer. And he's like if Scarecrow and Joker had an extremely generic child who wants to suck Dick's dick. What does the dealer do? Make Dick hallucinate, which causes him to pass out and wake up in his apartment with Barbara. He has no legs. Barbara, now going insane, chases after a crippled crusader with a knife before Dick wakes up for real. Legs intact. With the toxin still in the system, but with rest he'll be fine. This book is called Batman after all, so Dick throws caution to the wind and tracks down the dealer in a plane. But what happens on this plane? Dick, still having the toxin in his blood, goes absolute batshit level and crazy and sees a skinny man in a gas mask as if what would happen if all my nightmares had sex. How does he beat this creature? He clobbers it to Kingdom Come in the true Batman manner, while said demon calls him Daddy. I'm not even kidding, read the comic. But after Dick beats our freaky auctioneer, who else does he face? Bixby, which is a very uninteresting name, so we will call him Spring-Heeled Jack, because that's a better name and it'll make sense later. After doing some detective work, Batman tracks down Spring-Heeled Jack to a trash site. Batman, having no sense of awareness, falls into a trash compactor, giving us one of the hardest comic book panels of all time. After gliding out of the trash compactor, he glide kicks a thug in the face and meets Spring-Heeled Jack, who has metal legs and proceeds to jump away. Dick, now being Batman, simply throws a batarang disabled Spring-Heeled Jack, making him the new crippled crusader, who is now just Bixby as his heels are no longer springy. Batman, finally connecting the dots that I do not want to spoil, since I really do want you to read this masterpiece of a comic book, traces it back to a character we meet very early on in the book. But this, while being cool, doesn't make it a masterpiece. What is really special about this Batman comic? While this comic has amazing action and detective work, where it really shines is in its characters. Not just Batman, but Jim Gordon, both of them. James Gordon Jr. is in this comic mostly in the background as a subplot trying to heal his relationship with his dad. But from the moment we lay eyes on him in that diner, we can tell that something is just off about him. As we get more and more through the story, we get flashbacks with Jim Sr. to find out what James Jr. is a psychopath. But he seems to be trying to get better, as we the reader want to believe this, and it is until James Gordon Jr. breaks the Joker out of Arkham Asylum as a distraction so he can kidnap Barbara Jr. after almost killing Barbara Sr. Can they please give their children different names? And confesses to poisoning Gotham's water supply. After we have an amazing exchange between Barbara Jr. and James Jr., James calls Dick and gives him the greatest villain monologue I have ever read. While James is a different villain, he isn't bombastic or over the top, he is very real. He's a sick man who thinks he can make the world a better place by destroying it. I thought this monologue was forced and undercut how the book built James up as this calculated villain who doesn't want to prove anything and just wants to win at first. But after thinking on it, I think this perfectly encapsulates Dick and James' relationship. James is Dick's Joker. This monologue is to show Dick that seeing the best in people is a weakness, and that he is simply a dark reflection of what Dick would be. This comic ends as Dick and James Sr. talk in his apartment about what's next. But good writing can only take you so far. The artwork in this book is amazing in almost every way. The way this comic uses color is just immaculate. Most sections with James Gordon Jr. are orange, giving an uneasy feeling the moment we meet him, and throughout all the flashbacks. while most of the Batman sections use a mucky green, further symbolizing how even people strongest of morals have to muddy the water to make any meaningful change in the cesspool of a city that is Gotham, only using red and orange when he's at most risk, such as when he's in the trash compactor, where the only sections with James Gordon Jr. with green is when he kidnaps Barbara, turning the sense of safety against us. If you can't tell, I love Batman Black Mirror in almost every way, and it is in my top 3 favorite Batman comics. If you have not read this book already, please do. You will not regret it.